Three the Hard Way is back. We had about a week off, and it was a really good week off because what happened is there's a lot of stories out there that accumulated that we are going to get after today. Obviously, the elephant in the room is the 2025 draft. Shedeur sliding. I shouldn't even say sliding down the draft board. My man plummeted down the draft board. So we're going to get into that. We got a little bit of NBA playoffs that we're going to touch on. But we are not going to shortchange this Shedeur Sanders topic because it is an important one. And it's just not about football. And there are not two better gentlemen that I could be on this platform with talking about this. When I envisioned this show, I thought of you guys because I know what you bring to the table. I've talked sports with you the majority of my life. I've had an opportunity to watch your individual perspectives on sports. So these are the days where I'm glad that we just put this whole thing together. I got my brother, T. Austin, in the house. T, what's up, man?
What's happening? What's happening?
I got my other brother. I got my other brother, Mr. Hot Rod. Rodney Young is in the house all the way from Arizona, host of the Let's Talk About It podcast. Rod, what's up?
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Let's get this on, man. Let's get this on. Let's go.
Let's just hit it here. The Shedeur Sanders, I call it a debacle. And I have a lot of just different things. I've got a lot to unpack. And so I'm interested to hear your thoughts about this whole Shedeur Sanders thing and just see where we all are with it. Everybody seems to have a different perspective. So my two words for you guys is Shedeur Sanders. What's up?
Man, listen.
See,
come on, man. I've been sitting on this now for 72 hours. Look, man. It is the craziest thing that I have ever seen is to see that this young man just torpedoed down to the 5th round. And I could go as far as being honest and saying if the Browns would have took him in the 5th round, he might have went undrafted. That's how bad that's how bad it got. Okay, and you're talking about on Mel Kiper's board, he was the #1 ranked quarterback on his board to get picked up in the 5th round. Now, and then, and I just don't understand what the Browns was thinking. They went and got Dylan Gabriel, okay, in the 4th round, and then you turn around and in the 5th round you trade up to go get Shedeur Sanders. That makes absolutely no sense because to me, Dylan Gabriel is a career backup. So now if you look at it, you have Joe Flacco, you have Kenny Pickett, you have Dylan Gabriel, now you have Shedeur Sanders, and even though he's on IR, you still got Deshaun Watson. What sense, what message are you trying to send? But in terms of Shedeur, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to let you go ahead, T, because we going to roll with this for a minute. This has nothing to do with football. To me, this is the establishment, the powerhouse known as the NFL owners trying to teach Deion Sanders a lesson. That's what it is to me. I don't care what anybody else outside of the three of us say. That's what they were trying to do, was humble the Sanders family. And I think it is a travesty. I think it is disgusting the way that they tried to just disrespect this young man. You mean to tell me that you thought Jackson Dart was a better quarterback? That Tyler Slow was a better quarterback? Are you kidding me? Are you serious right now? You're saying that Dylan Gabriel was a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders? That don't make no sense. Go get it, T. I'm hot. I'm hot.
That's what Stephen A. Smith said last night in his 28-minute podcast. He thinks it was all the owners collectively trying to send Deion and his son a message by not, selecting this guy, by letting him slide down the board. And you're right. Had the Browns not selected him, he may be going back to Colorado next year to play, okay? Now, keeping it simple, this is what I hope. This is what I hope. As a result of what the NFL possibly did, along with the owners, okay, being in cahoots, I hope he is so upset, so angry that right now he's somewhere practicing, okay? And that he's going to practice for until minicamp starts, 12 to 14 to 16 hours a day, saying, I'm going to show them, okay? I'm going to show them. Now, me personally, I didn't think he was really that great. I really didn't, okay? I didn't think he was that great. However, he didn't deserve to have what happened to him, okay? Because in Colorado, he played behind a bad offensive line. He was running for his life all the time. He was running for his life, okay?
Horrible.
Everywhere this kid has gone, he's won, okay? At Jackson State, he won. At Colorado, he improved, you know, he improved things there. So, again, he did not deserve to have that happen, all right? Now, again, was he a first or second rounder? Possibly not, but he did not deserve this. Again, Stephen A. feels that the owners were in cahoots and allowed this to happen. So my prayer is that, hey, you know what? He's got a fire lit under him, and he's going to win the starting job. Hey, and I would be satisfied with us winning 6, 7, maybe 8 games next year, you know, under him. So that's what my prayer is. As a result of what happened to him, I pray that, you know, hey, he shows them that he was, you know, not worth sliding down the pole like that. So that's just my take. That's my take. And I think they got the guy from Oregon because they really didn't want Shedeur, but he just happened to still be there. So they say, hey, let's go get him. Let's go get him. Yeah, let's go get him.
Yeah, when I think about Shedeur Sanders, when I think about Shedeur Sanders, fellas, you know, I'm a little bit higher on Shedeur than most people are. I think this was a weak quarterback draft. I think everybody can agree with that compared to some of the previous drafts. And Shedeur, in my opinion, is the best out of the lot. I know people were high on Cam Ward. I think under the, you know, adversity that Shedeur faced in terms of his offensive line and all of that stuff up there in Colorado, I think he performed really, really well up there. I had to talk my brother off the ledge. My brother called me yesterday, and he was hot about this Shedeur Sanders thing, and he's not even a Colorado Buffalo fan. You know, he's a big-time Cleveland Brown fan, but, you know, he used the word collusion. You know, and I can't believe, I know I'm in the minority on this, so you fellas educate me. If you feel like I'm wrong, call me on it. I can't see a situation where the owners got together and said, hey, we are not going to draft this young man, and then presented that to their coaches. Like, I can't, and their personnel people, I can't wrap my mind around that. That takes, I mean, that's almost like the government covering up UFOs and aliens. I mean, something has got to leak out somewhere when you have that many people involved.
Maybe I know in due time it will. Maybe in due time.
Maybe. Yep, absolutely. And I think where I am, and we're going to discuss this further. I mean, man, this could take up the whole show for us. But I think when it comes to the pie of blame, the pie chart of blame, whatever you want to call it, everybody has their hand in this. This was disgusting. It was a bad look for the NFL. Credit to Mel Kiper Jr. I don't know if you guys saw Mel Kiper when Shedeur finally got drafted, but Mel Kiper went off. I mean, he was absolute, and he had a graph and stats that really solidified his point, and it really made the NFL look bad. I mean, you have people coming in with heavy baggage in previous drafts that went a lot higher than Shedeur Sanders did. And so it was just a really bad look for the draft. I mean, it was just disgusting, fellas. It was just disgusting.
Yeah. I just want the end result to work out in our favor, my favor, Rod's favor, even yours, and Greg's too, as a Browns fan. Like I say, I want this to turn something on inside this kid, and he just come out and be everything that, you know, the naysayers said that he isn't. That's what I want as a result of it. That's what I want. Yeah, that's what I want.
And for me, I just wanted to be understood that, it's funny that you said, that word collusion, and that, you find it hard to wrap your head around an L train, but I'm telling you it exists. It exists in the NFL. It definitely exists in the NFL, where they want to try to, to let it be known that we still control this machine. Not you guys. Y'all don't control this machine, because at the end of the day, if his name was Derek Smith, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the reason that we're having this conversation is because his name is Shedeur Sanders, and his father is, oh, by the way, the greatest cornerback of all time. And he's let it be known that my son is a very good football player, and that, my son is a game changer. And I've said this before. I said this on a previous time that we talked, is that what did he do differently than Archie Manning did for Peyton and for Eli? What did he do differently? I can see just the Colin Kaepernick. They went and they humbled him. Okay, so it happens. I'm telling you, it happens. Now, just like T is saying, and I agree, I want Shedeur Sanders to take this as fuel, and I want him. And I'm now before I said, no, was he a top-tier quarterback? No, I still believe that. But now I'm rooting for him because I root for the underdog. But I will ask you guys this question. Do you think he's going to get a fair shot in that Cleveland Browns quarterback locker room? Do you think that they will evaluate him fairly?
I'm hoping so, okay? I'm hoping so, and that's one thing I'm going to do this week is research exactly who's in that locker room as far as leadership, okay? Who's calling the shots? Is the coach going to be calling the shots? Who's the offensive coordinator, and who's the quarterback's coach? I'm going to research that, but that's a great question, Rod, and something tells me that he is going to get a shot. Something tells me that it is, and I'm praying that it happens, but something tells me that it is, but I'm going to research and see who those folks are. I am.
What you think, L Train?
Well, all bets are off when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Like, you can't expect the Cleveland Browns to do anything right.
Don't
the
be
way
so
they're
hard on
supposed
us,
to.
Lionel. Don't be so hard on us.
Hey, listen, man. T,
Because I know you're pulling for your guy in Minnesota to do well, so don't be so hard on us.
Listen, I know I wear the Vikings colors.
Yeah, you do.
I've got my Vikings channel. I root for the Minnesota Vikings. But we all know deep down inside that I bleed orange and brown. Like, I love the Browns, but I'm 52 years old, and I love the Browns, and I have had nothing but stupidity and heartbreak when it comes to that franchise. I mean, that's their resume when it comes to me as a fan. So I'm not trying to dog the Browns.
Hard times don't last always. Hard times, bad times don't last always.
I know. I'm not trying to dog the Browns. I'm just saying I can't right now as a fan. I don't think anybody will fault me by saying I can't trust them to make the right decision.
Right.
I mean, they just drafted two back-to-back quarterbacks in the draft.
Now, again, the owner may have gotten involved in that. He may have gotten involved in that and kind of, muddy the waters a little bit,
But T, check this out. Check this out, though. Are you telling me, out of all the quarterbacks that you could have drafted, you thought that Dylan Gabriel was the best fit for your quarterback role? Make that make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's hard, and because again, like I said, I never even heard of the kid, never even seen him play, so I've never,
right. So you had a chance to get Jackson Dart. You had a chance. Jalen Milroe went to Seattle. Yeah. You had an opportunity to get, you passed up on a generational talent in Travis Hunter. You went and got Mason Graham, who's not a slouch. I understand that. But then you have an opportunity to get, a quarterback, even if you didn't want Shedeur, and you chose as an organization Dylan Gabriel. That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
And that's what makes it scary. That's what makes your question scary. Is he going to get a fair chance in that locker room? That's what makes it scary because, again, the owner may have zoomed in or, jetted in and helped make that call. So I'm hoping so, man. I'm hoping because I think on the surface,
I think on the surface, he's going to get a fair shot. I mean, Shedeur he's been blessed in a situation where, he slid, but he's in a situation with an organization now. They need a quarterback, and their quarterback room is really in shambles. So in terms of him getting an opportunity, if the Browns brass does the right thing, to answer your question, Hot Rod, I think he's going to get an opportunity. My only point with the Browns is I can't say 100% sure that he is because I can't trust that they're going to do the right thing.
Right, and I agree with that. And T, I you know I'm die hard too, but the Browns have broken my heart since 1973, bro. I just and then this recent,
I think my heart is.
yeah, this recent regime has shown that you can't really trust the decision making process. Number one, they can't tell you who's making the decisions. Is it Andrew Berry? Is it Kevin Stefanski? Is it Dee Podesta? Okay, who's a baseball guy? Who's making the decisions? Right. Who's making the decisions here? And so it showed its ugly head when they got Dylan Gabriel, when you still had one of the top safeties that was still out here that you could have went and got. You said Dylan Gabriel was the best athlete on the board. That's why I don't pay attention to what Andrew Berry talks about, because he is smoke and mirrors. He's saying, yeah, we're going to get the best athlete. Dylan Gabriel at that juncture was not the best athlete. And then you double back and you get Shedeur, okay, and once again, I'm saying you're saying that Dylan Gabriel is a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders. Not any way, shape, or form. I've seen Dylan Gabriel. I watched him get pummeled by the Ohio State Buckeyes. I watched that. So he's a career backup, all right. And the reason I'm asking that question. Right. The reason I'm asking is he going to get a fair shot is because when you look at, and I know that people talked about it, look at the footage of when Shedeur got drafted. Look at Barry and look at Stefanski's reaction. Now, they poo-pooed it during the press conference, but they didn't look too excited that they drafted him. They didn't look excited at all, but I'm rooting for Shedeur Sanders. I want, and this is my scenario, guys, and if it goes this way, great. If it don't, it don't. I think that Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco are going to fight for the starting position, and Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders are going to fight for the backup position. You're not going to carry four quarterbacks into the season. It's just not going to happen. We don't count Deshaun Watson. He's going to be on IR for the entire year of the PUP list. But you can't carry four quarterbacks. Even if you put one on the practice squad, you're not going to carry four quarterbacks. So somebody in that quarterback room is not going to be there in the beginning of the season. That's another reason why I believe they drafted Shedeur at number 5 in the 5th round, because if there are any shenanigans or anything that takes place, they can cut him and they got to pay him. Okay? So now, now there's no guarantee. But I'm rooting for Shedeur Sanders. How is it that your 5th round pick is going to be more popular than all of your other picks combined? Because who's going to get the coverage?
Yeah, Rod, your scenario makes sense, but I hope you're wrong. I hope they all get a chance to, rally for that number 1 spot, okay? Instead of the two that you said, going for the starting, and then the other two are, fighting for the backup. I don't know how that works. You guys may know, but I hope they all get a chance to fight for the number 1 spot. And that's where I'm expecting and hoping that Shedeur, makes it happen, since he was the last one in the room. He was the last one, in out the cold from the rainstorm. He was the last one in.
Yeah, I hope that the Browns give this young man an opportunity. And what I mean by that, there are little things that you can do as an organization to squash talent. Now, I don't know where he falls on the depth chart right now for the Browns in terms of where their coaches kind of perceive him. But I hope in practices that they just don't stick him on the practice squad or the 3rd string squad. Obviously, I know he's going to get some reps there, but I think he's got to get some reps with some of the main guys. I think his stage is going to be the preseason. And so instead of sticking him with the 3rd stringers, I hope he gets a game with the 1st team offensive line. I hope he gets a game with the 1st wide receiving core, the 1st running back core, because you can't just stick him down there with guys that are just trying to make the team. because he's going to look bad. I mean, guys aren't going to be blocking for him. I think as the Cleveland Browns, you've got to figure out what you have. And I'm confident that Shedeur Sanders, other than Joe Flacco right now, Joe Flacco has a lot of experience. So I'm not going to sit here and put Shedeur Sanders over Joe Flacco right now. But in terms of talent in the room, again, I'm a little bit higher on Shedeur than anybody else. I think Shedeur is the most talented quarterback in the room. And if the Cleveland Browns can cultivate that and put him with guys that can help his performance, I think he's going to show out. Not saying that he's going to start the year as QB1, but I think he's going to make his way that way for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, part of me is hoping that Joe Flacco steps back and say, hey, let me teach these kids. Let me mentor them. Let me train them up. Let me step back. My playing days are over. Let me, train these guys up to, take the number one spot. That's what I'm hoping happens,
Yeah,
That's what we do in the military. The older
I-
guys, we bring the younger guys in and let them take our positions.
Yeah, the problem with that, T, is Joe Flacco has said on 2 different occasions, he said, I'm just coming here to work. I'm just coming here to play football. He's not really in the mode, in the mindset of mentoring, other quarterbacks. That's not his thing. He still believes that he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. Now, here is where Deion comes in, because Deion was a teammate of Joe Flacco's. So you never know. Deion may make that phone call. Him and Joe have a conversation and say, hey, look, man, you see what they did to my son. I can trust that, take him through. I'm not saying that he's going to start. I'm not looking for him to start. I'm just looking for him to compete. But if you can give him the ins and outs of how to be a professional quarterback, then so be it. Like I said, I'm just concerned because I've seen the Browns bury people. I've seen it happen. Okay, look at what they did to Baker Mayfield. That was an absolute travesty. Don't get me wrong, Baker kind of talked his way out of Cleveland, but I watched Stefanski bury him. I've watched players just get buried. Okay, and recently, let's be honest, and debate me if I'm wrong, but Nick Chubb got buried, and I'm gonna tell you why. Nick Chubb was buried. He just came back out of a catastrophic knee injury, and you put him back behind that offensive line, and you really wasn't running his bread and butter. And then he turned around and he broke his foot. And now there's talks that, he may not come back. I think the Browns are going to bring him back on a veteran minimum, but I've seen it happen. And so that's why I just really want this young man to get his opportunity, because I truly believe that maybe not, like you said, T, he's not better than Joe Flacco because Flacco has the experience. But I think he's going to outplay Gabriel. I think he's going to outplay Kenny Pickett. I honestly do. And I think those quarterbacks in that quarterback room, other than Joe Flacco, are nervous that Shedeur Sanders is now in that quarterback room, because at the end of the day, Shedeur Sanders is a winner. And that's something that the Browns haven't had since Bernie Kosar. They have somebody who's got a swagger, somebody who's got a confidence in himself, somebody who believes in his ability, and he galvanizes his teammates. Just like you said, at Colorado, their offensive line was absolutely horrible, but they played for him. They fought for him. So he's a leader, and so I just want him to get the necessary opportunity. That's it.
And this goes back to a conversation we all had a couple of weeks ago about being in a grown-up locker room, being in a grown-up organization where you got people in the locker room that will help foster that and will help facilitate that. Now I'm thinking too, is he going to get a chance? Who else in that locker room can kind of help out with that? I don't know. Well, a guy maybe like Nick Chubb, but he's injured and trying to work his way back. But I wish we had that player on our roster in the offensive room that can kind of help out and facilitate that as well.
Yeah,
here's where your $40 million man steps in. Here's where Myles Garrett steps in and says, hey, this is the kid I want. This is who y'all talk to me about right here. You talk to me about changing the trajectory of this organization. I think it's Shedeur. Okay? I'll ride with Joe Flacco because I know what Flacco does. Don't know Kenny Pickett. I sacked him a whole lot of times in Pittsburgh. Ain't really down with him. Dylan Gabriel, who? I don't know who this kid is, but I know this Sanders kid. And so It's Myles Garrett. That's the one who can change the trajectory of the organization by saying, leave this kid alone and let him go out and ball.
When people talk about Shedeur Sanders, man, I'm always intrigued when they say he's not that good. I'm always intrigued by what are you seeing? I mean, Shedeur Sanders and Primetime, they came to an organization that had won one game. They were 1-11 in Colorado. So that means to me, I mean, I coach in college athletics. I took over a really bad program here in Wisconsin. I know how hard that is to rebuild and retool everything. They came in and they took a 1-11 team, which means your personnel is just depleted. And Primetime took a lot of flack for turning that roster over, but he did what he had to do to turn it over. A large part of that was Shedeur Sanders. So he did it. He took Colorado to heights that they had never been. Did he win a national championship? Yeah. Did he win a national championship in his 2 years there? No. But think of where the team was before he arrived. It's just incredible work, fellas. Rodney, when you say he's a winner, he's to flip that like that. He is a winner. So when people look at Colorado and they say, man, you know, I just don't think Shedeur is that good. I mean, put in perspective what you're watching and what he has to work with. I think that's only going to be enhanced when he gets to the pros. And I think it's only going to be enhanced because he's going to be playing with better players than he ever played with at Jackson State and that he ever played with at Colorado. So that's going to enhance his skill set. Fellas, I want to take it to a different spot in this conversation because we can keep going about this conversation, and I want to. But I have been talking about with a lot of people that this whole Shedeur Sanders thing, man, is ugly. It's ugly. It's embarrassing. It's disgusting. The NFL and all these teams need to be ashamed of themselves. They need to be ashamed of themselves. But here's what I know, too. There's a pie chart of blame in all of this. And I'm not going to admit the role that Deion Sanders played in it. I'm not going to admit the role that Shedeur Sanders played in it. I've heard the argument, and I agree, that the Mannings were the same way. You can even throw John Elway in that conversation. They were the same way. But the difference is we are in the age of social media. So the Primetime deal, when he came out and said, my son's just not going to play for anybody, my son is only going to play for certain teams, these were the teams that were looking to draft him. And it became a little bit more ugly than the Mannings because it was plastered all over social media. So it gave a level of venom and it gave a level of arrogance to the whole Primetime thing. I think that really hurt Shedeur. What are your thoughts on that?
It did. I mean, we know who Deion is. We know Deion. And the thing about it is he's authentically himself. That's who he is. That's who he is. Right, wrong, or indifference. Okay? And a lot of times it's, gotten him in trouble. Wasn't it last season he said, my son won't play unless he goes in the first round. I remember him saying that. I kind of cringe. Yeah, cringe. But that's Deion. That's him. Yeah. And a lot of that brass is what has worked for him, okay? That's why he's a Hall of Famer. That's why he played, baseball early in the day and played football at night or whatever way it was, The late Bobby Bowden said Deion Sanders was the best football player he's ever seen. Bobby Bowden has seen a lot of football players, okay? Yeah. So again, to chime in or piggyback off of, what you said, L Train, Deion a lot of times is his own worst enemy. But that's who he is, and that's what's made him successful.
Now, for me, I equate to what Deion is doing. Let's take another individual that the powerhouse tried to humble, LeVar Ball.
Yeah.
Yes.
LeVar Ball basically said the same thing. He said all three of my sons are great, and and y'all's are not. And he would make statements and have a bravado. I remember he said, hey, I could beat Michael Jordan one-on-one right now. And all of that. He made that, but one thing that you have to understand about Deion Sanders is Deion Sanders is a master marketer. He's a master at that. And so what he did was he's trying to market, his sons. Now, did it ultimately backfire? Yes, it did. So when you say the pie of blame, I am not exonerating Deion Sanders whatsoever. I'm not exonerating Shedeur to an extent, because there were some things that he said at the pre-draft combine conference that was a little like, son, I really need you to tone it down a little bit. However, at the end of the day, I'll be honest, and people may not agree, but the skin color took a whole lot, okay, on what has been decided. Because, like I said, if Deion Sanders was Derek Sanders, it wouldn't have been a problem. And, we're not going to let this brother, try to tell us that they kids is the greatest since sliced bread. Okay, but no, they're not to be exonerated. But the way that young man was disrespected in his talent, I'm not letting that roll either. Okay, now the question is, guys, is Deion gonna stop talking? No. Just like y'all said, he did. He turned around the Colorado program that did nobody know nothing about. The last person that you remember coming out of Colorado was Cordell Stewart.
Yep, Slash.
That was the last person that you heard of coming out of Colorado was Cordell Stewart. So he turned that program and he made it worth watching. And then he put his son at quarterback, and his son, I think all Pac-10, I think. So and then even Shiloh. Shiloh just signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, okay? So at the end of the day, Deion did his job. Both of his boys are playing NFL football. Now, if he had a chance to do things over again, for me, yeah, there's certain things that he should have kept to himself and say, and not said so much. But Deion is going to be Deion. That's the way he is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think when you think about this, man, I think it's safe to say with all three of us, I think we really care about young people. T, you got your bookstore. Rod, you are always advising young people in your line of work, in your life. I work with young people every day. So we just have a heart like that, and we just care. I don't know if you guys had the opportunity. Deion has his own production company where he films everything. It's called Well Off Media. And I'm going to give Deion and the Sanders family a lot of credit. They filmed that whole draft process from Thursday to Saturday, and they published everything. If you want to go watch content, find that on YouTube, because the reason why I say that is because you got a lot of background in that whole process, and the emotions that came with it and the feelings that came with it. It was awkward. It was embarrassing for the family, especially Shedeur, to have all those people there to celebrate him. I mean, they created this big party room, and then for him to not get drafted in the first round, and then the second day come back where he knew that he was going to get drafted on day 2. That didn't happen. He gets drafted on day 3, and they filmed everything. So
it's almost like being left at the altar.
Yes, sir. And I am just amazed that there are some people out there that don't have a heart, and they love to see this young man humble. If you can watch those 3 days of that media and not feel some kind of way for Shedeur Sanders, you've got a problem. Especially, I don't know if you guys saw this or heard this, there was a prank phone call.
Yeah, I heard about
somebody,
that.
Somebody called Shedeur, and they've got it on film. Somebody called Shedeur, and the guy on the phone was like, hey, I'm the GM from the New Orleans Saints. We're going to take you off the board. And you can see the smile on Shedeur's face. And Shedeur said, man, I've been waiting for this for a long time. And the guy on the phone said, well, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. And hung up the phone.
That's nasty work. That's dirty work.
How
nasty
disgusting,
work.
man. How disgusting.
Nasty work.
I got more info on that too, L Train and T. Do you know that one of those kids? It was the GM of the Giants. It was one of them was his son.
What? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, yeah. Come on now, I dig. So when I heard about it, I just heard this morning and I dug into it, is that of course the NFL is doing an investigation on it, but it's possibly the New York Giants, that the GM of the Giants, his son was one of those kids who made that call, because Shedeur got a phone specifically for the NFL, so that call can be made. Is a private number. It had GM's numbers in it. Okay, so these two young men got these numbers that there's no way they should have gotten them. So that's why they're connecting it to someone within the NFL who leaked it to one of their kids. They're saying it's the New York Giants GM son. Okay, and that's because yeah, we'll know, but no, it was disgusting. It was two college goofies who wanted 15 minutes of fame, and it could possibly cost them. All right, but I do give Shedeur credit. He did get interviewed over the phone by local media members in Cleveland, and he just said, "You know what? I don't deal with negativity. Yeah, it was dumb, but I'm gonna move on." And that's why I believe this kid is. Yeah, that's why I believe this kid will be successful, and I'm really hoping that he does use this as fuel, and that he goes in there, he keeps his mouth shut, he keeps the bravado in his pocket for right now, because sometimes it's good to be confident in yourself. Okay, people think it's being brash. No, the kid is confident. Who was his father? So that's the bottom line. And so I'm just hoping that once again that he goes into Cleveland, because if he does what I think he's going to do, we are going to finally have a quarterback who is confident enough, who you're going to ride with. Okay, I'm waiting there. I'm just waiting to see what kind of number you're going to get. That'll be my first Browns jersey. I'm rooting for this kid. I am. I'm just concerned about the organization around him.
Well, when you're talking about the Browns, here's my thing, because another optic thing that I didn't like is when Mary Kay Abbott, who covers the Browns, she does a great job. She asked the question to Kevin Stefanski and the general manager and said, you guys didn't really look happy. And Hot Rod, I think you touched on that. You guys didn't really look happy.
Okay.
And yep. And I don't think they were happy. But
no.
Here's my comeback to the Browns, man. Here's my comeback. Obviously, there were things. If you didn't want Shedeur, there were obviously some things that you didn't like. And if you want to sell some wolf tickets to me, talking about, we've learned our lesson from the past, then okay, I guess I got to buy that. But you took on Baker Mayfield with baggage. Baker Mayfield came to this organization with baggage. I know this administration with the Cleveland Browns wasn't really around with the whole Johnny Manziel thing. There were some pieces that have changed since then, but for the most part, you knew who Johnny Manziel was coming out of Texas A&M. You took him on with baggage. And then you jettisoned Baker Mayfield and you brought in Deshaun Watson, where he had so many cases against him. You brought him in with baggage. You look at Shedeur Sanders, like, what is that kid guilty of? Like, what his record is clean off the field. He turned a program around, If you want to say that his dad is a loudmouth, which I don't necessarily think he is. He just loves his son.
No.
He's passionate about his son. So
he's also a Hall of Famer.
Hall of Fame. And so if you are looking at the past decisions that the Browns have made about quarterbacks, why all of a sudden this year are you going to try to button it up? Against a kid who has done absolutely nothing compared to the last few quarterbacks that you've brought into this Cleveland Brown organization. So, Rod, I agree with you. I worry about the organization around him to make the right decisions, because stuff that they do just doesn't make sense to me. Just doesn't make sense.
Right. It's clear. And, I really, like I said, I really want this kid to be successful. I think he can be. I think Barry has put some pieces around. I do question the fact that he didn't draft a wide receiver, but we'll move on with that. Um, so I just don't. I think for me with the NFL and how this was handled, I just don't want this to continue. I think it needs. I think it's a red flag that's been raised. I think it needs to be talked about consistently, especially with our black athletes. It needs to be talked about because I'll say this a little segue. All these accusers of Deshaun Watson, and there was many of them, and people vilified Deshaun Watson, hung him in effigy. I'm not talking about the football side of it, because football, that's another story. But then you have the punter or the kicker in Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Yes.
I know, King. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
Okay. Isn't it? It's Justin Tucker. I think it's Tucker.
Yep.
Same exact thing that happened to Deshaun Watson has happened to him, and you have heard nothing about it. You haven't heard anything about it. So as much as we sometimes try to get away from it, and I don't want to get into that because that's a whole slippery slope. The racial undertones of this doesn't make sense. And like I said, I agree with you, L Train. Social media has blown this thing up. But like I said, if his name wasn't Sanders and his name was Washington or Smith, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Yeah. But because this kid was so confident in himself, father, Hall of Famer, speaking confidence into his son, which any true father should be doing, because I have two sons myself, and when they both played football, I talked them up because I wanted them to be confident in who they were. I didn't want anybody to take anything from them. But it seems to me as if this kid, because of his father, because of his confidence in himself, plummeted because of that. And it just does not add up.
Right.
When I look at the history of the
Stephen A. has already thrown it out there. I listened to his 28-minute, I believe, podcast last night, and he threw that out there. He said, shame on the owners for being in cahoots with allowing this to happen. And again, Stephen A. loves Dion. So he said it's all because of his dad, Dion being Dion. So, yeah, there we go. But I'm with you. Two reasons. I'm a Browns fan. I've been rooting for the Browns since mid to late 70s. That's the only team I ride with. Again, I have a flag in front of my store here in Virginia, Cleveland Browns. I roll with them. I rock my Cavaliers gear. I rock my Cleveland Indians Guardians gear. Buckeyes. I didn't go to Ohio State, but they're in our state. So I am rooting for him because he's a Brown. Number one, he's wearing our uniform, and two, I want him to get his get back. I want him to get it.
You know what's great about this whole story, man, is that it's, if there's a silver lining in it, no matter how disgusting it is, I want you fellas to peer into the future with me. Rod, T, the heartbreak that we've had when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. And I think we roll with the Cleveland Browns tough. What a great story it would be. And I think we're all God-fearing men, and I believe God works in mysterious ways. He works in mysterious ways. He doesn't always give you what you want. He gives you what you need. And I'm not trying to sit on this platform and say that the man upstairs cares about football. But he cares about people.
Right.
He cares about people. And how great would it be when you see the history of the Cleveland Browns, Shedeur Sanders gone through what he's gone through where nobody wanted him this year, slid down the draft board. Now he goes to the Cleveland Browns with their history. Can you imagine the story that would be if he turned this franchise into a Super Bowl champion?
I love it.
I've always said this about the Cleveland Browns and when they will win a Super Bowl, because I believe it's going to happen. I said when the Cleveland Browns wins a championship, the city of Cleveland, its fans, the organization will never see it coming. It is going to come out. They're not going to be touted as the best team in the league. I think the team that wins the championship in Cleveland, you're never going to see it coming. And I can just kind of see this with Shedeur. The controversy of him sliding, coming in now, essentially, you can't argue that he's right now the third or fourth string quarterback, however way you want to visualize it. He can turn this thing around, man, and turn the Cleveland Browns into a championship team. What a great story that would be, fellas.
No doubt.
I'm going to tell it to you like this. If Shedeur Sanders and this organization turns it around and the Browns go to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl, I'm saying this right now. I want you, T, and I want you, L Train. We all buying plane tickets. We going back to Cleveland, and we going to do a 3 the Hard Way broadcast back in Cleveland.
I'm
Yes,
down.
we will.
Okay, we gonna do a 3 the Hard Way broadcast back in Cleveland. We gonna either be in front of the stadium or out in the rear. I don't care, or we may be in the middle of the parade. But I'm telling you, the Browns do that. I'm telling you, I'm flying back to Cleveland. I want y'all guys to meet me there, and
I'm with you.
or better yet, we will do a remote 3 the Hard Way in front of the high school.
There you go. There you go. There you go. There you
That
go.
that would be
go.
would be absolutely fantastic, man. We can talk about this Shedeur Sanders and you know for hours, and not saying we aren't going to bring this up on other episodes because I think this is going to be one of those type of topics where every Sunday there's going to be a little bit to tap into when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, especially when the OTAs start. Especially when the training camps start.
A lot of content.
Yeah, a lot of content, man. But we got more content. I guess we got to switch gears from the gridiron to the hardwood, man. We got the NBA playoffs. And I got to start with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Man, oh man, with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know it's the first round. I know they're playing the 8th seed Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler. I know everybody's going to throw all these excuses out there about why the Cleveland Cavaliers are looking dominant. Man, but I know championship basketball when I see it. And I'm not ready to put the ring on the Cavaliers' finger. But the Cavaliers are looking dangerous, man. They are dominating when they're supposed to dominating. Are they playing perfect basketball? No, but nobody is. They're playing dominant basketball. They've got depth, and the players they need to perform are performing. Man, let's talk about our Cleveland Cavaliers, fellas.
Let me jump out there first, Rod. Tomorrow night, they need to go ahead and finish Miami off. There don't need to be 2 planes flying back to Cleveland. Only needs to be 1 airplane flying back to Cleveland. That's us going back home to rest and heal and wait for the second round. Go ahead and finish Miami off, tomorrow night. Now, again, that Miami team is well coached. They're a well-run organization. Tyler Hero can cause problems for you. Bam can cause problems for you. And, again, they're a physical team, but give the Cavs credit. Give us credit for taking care of business in the first 3 games. Tomorrow night, just need to go ahead and finish them off. Again, like I say, only 1 jet airplane needs to fly back north, not 2. Go ahead and finish them off and go back home and wait for the next round. That's where I am.
And Hot Rod, T is repping today. T, hold your head down so we can take a look at that hat. T is repping today.
Yeah, I see.
Bucket. Cavaliers bucket hat.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Rod,
First of all, shout out to the Defensive Player of the Year, Evan Mobley. First time in Cavalier history that we have a Defensive Player of the Year. Well deserved, even though Draymond Green was bumping his gums, talking about he should have been the Defensive Player of the Year. I'm glad that the people saw that Evan Mobley was a game changer. Now, to this game in Miami, they absolutely took Miami's heart. They because Miami is a well-coached team. Eric Spoelstra's a great coach. You got Adebayo who is good, but I think what they did what shocked me yesterday in watching the game is the Cavaliers' physicality.
Yeah,
they were physical with the Miami Heat, and I think it shocked the Heat. It really did. I mean, Evan Mobley has 20, Jared Allen had 22. Max Strus was tremendous playing against his old team. Now, mind you, Donovan Mitchell had a subpar game.
Right.
Okay, and they still beat them by almost 30. All right, but it was the others who took over. Okay, like I said, Sam Merrill played pretty decent defense. Dean Wade came off the bench. Isaac Okoro played well defensively. So they have they had a full game yesterday. Now, yes, I agree with T. I want to see them just finish it off and come on home and get that rest. While the Pacers and they're beating each other up. It gives them an opportunity to rest. My only apprehensiveness with this is that they are in South Beach for a couple of days, and you know what happens sometimes is teams get the South Beach flu. All right.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they come out with the same intensity on Monday that they did yesterday. If they do that, the Cavs will sweep the Miami Heat, and then they can sit and wait. But it's something that I'm seeing right now. And T, I don't know if you see it. The Cavaliers, it seems like a switch is being flipped right now. Because like I said, offensively, we know what the Cavaliers can do. But I watched them defensively yesterday, and they absolutely suffocated Miami defensively. I mean, guys were flying around. Ty Jerome was flying around. DeAndre Hunter had 23 points. The guys were defending the ball, and they were doing it with physicality. And so if the Cavaliers do what I think they're about to do, guys, they are going to make a run. It doesn't matter who they play. They're going to make a run. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping they go ahead and get the sweep, but I'll be honest, guys, I won't be surprised if they drop one and they do a gentleman's sweep, which is 5 games and they win they win the next game in Cleveland. Don't be shocked. I'm hoping it's a sweep, but I see 5.
I want to sweep, and this is where Tristan Thompson comes in, who's wearing a ring, who's a little older, who's out of those streets now. I think he's out of the streets, and says, guys, we need to stay focused down here, okay? We need to stay focused. Because you're right, South Beach will get the best of all of us. But hey, we're down here on business. This is not a pleasure trip. This is not a vacation. Let's finish those guys off tomorrow. Only 2 airplanes go north, and let them go wherever the heck they want to go. 1 airplane go north and get ready for the next team. That's it. Yep.
Hey, great take by both you guys. The South Beach aspect, Hot Rod, I didn't even think about until you said it. Yeah. That is valid. And T, I love your take about Tristan Thompson. Who's got the ring. He's the mature guy in the locker room. Hopefully he can get with some of these guys and say, hey, let's finish this off. That's a great take. I think it's going to be done.
Business.
Yep. I think it's going to be done. I think it's going to be a sweep. I think,
yep.
The burden of being a basketball coach for all these years is now it's hard for me to just watch a game as a fan. Like, as I'm watching games, I'm seeing these X's and O's go through my head in terms of what they're running. The one thing that I like about what the Cavaliers are doing is that 2-man game with Allen. Oh, my gosh. Doesn't matter who the guard is. They're running that 2-man game, and they're getting to that 45, or they're eating the paint off that 2-man game. And because Allen can play above the rim, it's almost unguardable. And then to talk about their defense, they are spidering to the basketball. Like they're running what they call like a no-middle defense. So they're essentially taking the drive away, and they're recovering with a lot of length. I mean, Mobley and Allen, that is the biggest, longest front court in the league. So when they're recovering off those threes and they're running guys off the three-point line, and now you got to hit the paint, there's just really nothing you can do. The Cavaliers' next game is going to tell me a lot because I believe my eyes and what I see. If they lose to the Heat, no panic. We'll just get them the next night. So it's not going to be an indictment on the Cleveland Cavaliers. But I believe they're going to win right now because what I see is a different team. The optics tell me that they're hungry. They got a killer instinct. I mean, look at the emotion they showed in last game in Miami, yelling at the crowd, chest bumping, high-fiving. Yeah. I mean, everybody's showing emotion, man. This team is a little different. It's just different when you look at the optics, and I think they're going to close them out, man. I just really, really do.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah, and real quick, let's not stray away from your T Wolves, sir.
I'm not
Let's not
shying
stray
away.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah, you know, hey, they got them. They gonna get them. They're playing really hard. I give them
Yeah.
that, you
Yeah.
know, and they gonna have to make Superman put his cape on. All right,
yeah.
and at 40, I don't know if Superman can still put that cape on like that.
And he put
Yeah.
that cape on last game when
Yeah.
Luca was sick.
Yeah.
LeBron looked
hmm
like vintage LeBron out there against the T Wolves. I
Yeah.
got to give him that.
Yeah.
Yeah, once again, maybe it's because you know you my homie and you a T Wolves guy. I root for the T Wolves because I want
Yeah.
to see that young Thundercat Anthony Edwards and Nas Reed and those guys. I want to see them. I want to see them do some things. Okay, but once again, and T, you can agree that juggernaut in OKC boy, whoo,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
making
They are.
John Morant don't feel like playing no more. They really putting it to him right now.
Yeah. They are. And then one other team in the West too. And I was going to talk about them if we get a second for parting shots. The Clippers. The Clippers. Kawhi the other night. Well, I'll save it. But Kawhi the other night, man. You know, watching him in that second game, in game two, I just said, just think if he would have been healthy. You know, the last 4 or 5 seasons, he's only been able to play 40, 45 games. Just think if this guy, you know, could have remained healthy the whole time. He is something else, man. He doesn't, you know, he doesn't give you 50 and 60 like Luka, but he's consistent with 29, 39 a night, man. He's just so consistent, plays both ends of the court. I mean, you talk about great. Game two just showed me just how great he really is. So don't count the Clippers out because, again, I think in the West, I think Ty Lue is the best coach in the West. I really do. I just love Ty Lue and what he does and how and you know you guys are coaches. You guys are coaches. He's a great coach, man. I love Ty Lue. Love him.
Yeah, my Timberwolves. The game is going to be starting here in a little bit. I got to do some stuff around the house, so I won't be able to watch it live. But I'm going to have that thing DVR'd. I believe my T-Wolves will win the day. I believe down at the Target Center. It's going to be raucous in Minneapolis. I think they're going to do a really good job today, but I think it's going to be a struggle, man. LeBron has a lot of heart. Luka has a lot of heart. You know, I don't know if Luka's recovered from his flu or whatever he's had, but I think the Timberwolves are just a deeper team, man, a little bit more bouncier of a team. And as I said before this series started, I think the Lakers are just going to be hard-pressed to deal with all that youth and athleticism. I do think, I'm not saying that the Timberwolves are going to win the rest of the game without the Lakers winning any more games, but I do feel confident that the Timberwolves are going to win today, man. I just feel good about that.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, parting shots today, I'm going to let Hot Rod, I'm going to start off with you, T. You can go after that, and then I'll go last about just, you know, some significant things that happened in sports this week, man. What are your parting shots out there, Hot Rod?
Here, I got something for you. This is funny. My parting shot is a shout out to the legend, Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor was asked by Abdul Carter if he could wear his retired number 56. And Lawrence Taylor told him, no. You earn your stripes, son. You get your own number and make it great. Don't take mine because mine is already great. Now, some will say, okay, well, that's just being a disgruntled legend. No. That's what we need to do nowadays with these young guns is let them know, create your own legacy, because Abdul Carter could get that 56 and become an all-pro, and when you see that 56 as a New York Giant, the first person you're going to think about is Lawrence Taylor. So make your own, okay? So that's my parting shot. Shout out to Lawrence Taylor for standing on business.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off of yours, and it's something that you say that, and I'm glad you say that, because Cam Ward went to the great Warren Moon, and Warren Moon, you know, allowed the kid to wear his number, and I wish Warren would have done the same thing, okay?
Yeah.
Again, people forget his years up in the CFL. He was outstanding. Warren Moon was an outstanding quarterback, a great quarterback. And I wish he would have told Cam Ward, you know, no, just like what LT did. But Warren is a nice guy. He's cut from a different cloth from LT. But part of me, when I saw that, I just kind of, shook my head. I wish he would have, told a young boy no. I really do. So I'm gonna go opposite of you, there, Rod. Opposite of you.
Love the party shots. I think the most significant moment in sports this week was the 2025 NFL draft and the whole Shedeur Sanders thing. I think that, there are times, I think there's a group and a class of people out there that think things are a lot better for players of color in these professional leagues. They look back at the Jackie Robinson days and look at all the vigor that he went through. And I think there's a lot of people that actually think that things are done now and everybody gets equal treatment and all of this stuff. And I'm not saying that we haven't progressed, but I think, for me, I'm kind of glad that this week happened when it came to that, because sometimes you need to be slapped upside the head and reminded about there are things that are still occurring in sports. And it was put on a stage this weekend at the draft. And, a lot of people like to self-reflect. They're going to blame it on Deion. They're going to blame it on the kid. But you just go back and watch that kid's talent, and then you watch the NFL draft, and you tell me that kid, no matter what you think about him, deserves to be a 5th-round pick in the draft. That says all you need to know about the kind of stuff that goes on in supposedly the best sporting organization in the world. There's nothing like the NFL. There's no sports organization like the NFL. And to have that continue to still be going on in the league was just a bad look and an absolute shame. And, for all the decisions that you make, there are always consequences. And the NFL is going to have to own this one. I don't know what consequences there's going to be, but all the owners and coaches, the commissioner, they're going to have to own this bad look. And so, to me, this week, that was the most significant thing that happened when it comes to my parting shot in sports this week.
That's good stuff right there.
There's more to come.
Absolutely. Well, fellas, great show, man. I was chomping at the bit. I'm like, Hot Rod, you said you're like a kid at Christmas time. Man, my tongue got sores on it because I had to bite it for a couple of days. I wanted to get on my show, Unconventional Playbook, and just go off, but I said, no, I gotta save it for the fellas. I gotta be on the show with the fellas. Again, please hit that like and subscribe button. 3 the Hard Way. We just 3 brothers from Warrensville Heights talking sports. This is not going to be Minnesota dominated. This is not going to be Cleveland dominated. We're going to talk about a whole lot of different sports. This just so happened that the Shedeur Sanders thing was pretty paramount this week. He ended up going to Cleveland. So we talked a lot of Cleveland sports today, but we're going to diversify our portfolio going forward. We appreciate all of the support that we've gotten in the 3 weeks that we've been doing this. We're just continuing to grow, and we're going to continue to put great content out there for you guys. Hot Rod, T, I appreciate you guys joining me, man.
Same here.
Yes,
Same
sir.
Here.
Yes, sir. Have a great week, everybody.
Hurry back. Hurry back next Sunday.
That's right, man. Yes, sir. This has been 3 the Hard Way. We'll make sure to get back with you guys next Sunday. Have a good Sunday, everybody.
Yeah. Take care, gentlemen.